more time, I'll start with the session. Good morning. I would like to welcome you here for our session, online poster session, Agroecological Aspects 1. My name is Olga Lona, and I'm from the University of Life Sciences, Prague, from the Faculty of Tropical Agri-Sciences. Without any further delay, I would like to invite the first speaker, who should be Faisal Salah, I believe. Hello.
Good morning. How are you? You hear me?
Yes.
Hello. I am
Yes,
Faisal Salah from Sudan. Good morning.
Good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Good morning.
So please, can you please present your poster for us?
Okay. Okay. I will start now. Thank you for giving me this chance to present my poster under title.
Maybe, sorry, can I just interrupt you? There is like 2 to 3 minutes per, like 3 minutes per person, and plus some questions. So I would like to ask you to somehow try to stick to this schedule. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. No problem. I will start now. My poster under this minute. Effect of aqueous extract of some botanicals or natural products like handle, citrulus, and Senamacca, Sen Alexandria, and Umjalagil, which is a common name, Aristolochia, bracteolata, of uncontrolled leaf miner lyromyces species in Sudan in snake cucumber. Snake cucumber is one of the most popular and important vegetable crops. It's used in worldwide as a daily diet, and it can be eaten fresh or on salad or cooked. You can see this photo of the snake cucumber, and the crops in the field suffer from attack by many pests and disease. Leaf miner is a major insect based on vegetables in Sudan. And we have 2 species, Lyromyza trifoliae and Lyromyza sativii, and you can see the.
I'm sorry, we don't see the we don't see your poster video.
Why? I sent it yesterday. I sent it yesterday.
Yeah, I thought that
I don't know. I sent it yesterday to Eric as a PDF, and also I don't know what happened. Okay, I will speak then.
Okay, and I'll try to figure out. I'll try to figure out who is supposed to play the video. I thought that it was you, but or it would be like there will be. Yeah, sorry. So please continue.
I will start. Continues like this only. Can I continue?
Yeah. Yes, please.
The demic caused by Lyromyza can be direct, caused by larval feeding, or can reduce the photosynthetic capacity of the plant. Also, heavy infestation causes desiccations and premature fall of the leaves. I sent the photo for the demic. Objective of this study to evaluate the effect of extraction of the natural product, citrulus and Aristolochia and Senna Alexandria on vegetable leaf miner infesting snake cucumber plants. Also, I sent the photo for the 3 natural products. Material we use, the study was conducted in Agriculture Research Corporation with Medellin, Sudan. As we use the 3 natural products I mentioned before, 10% prepared by mixing 15 grams of the plant powder with 150 ml distilled water in oil containers, 1.5 grams of the gum arabic, and 3.575 grams of molasses. The snake cucumber variety, we use the variety silica with design RCB. The mixture was shaken for 2 to 3 hours, stored at 20 degrees centigrade, and filter ready for applications. All treatment were used in same dose, 10% WV. Control was treated by distilled water mixed with by gum arabic and molasses only. A data collection, infestation percentage, and the number of active mines. And all data transfer when necessary before analysis variance and gene stat analysis and DMR and Duncan multiple rank test was used for mean separation. SAS program were used. The data we collected in the first season, we show that the control have 5.9 infestation percentage. So the control have highest number, highest infestation percentage. For the first season also, number of mine 4.2 for the control, which is the highest one. Also for the second season, 8.7 for control for infestation percentage and 0.6 for the number of active mine. The conclusions, the applications of 10% aqueous extract of handle fruits and Senamaka plant and Umchirajal plant on snake cucumber has significantly reduced the damage of the leaf miner compared to untreated snake. And suggestions, the aqueous extract of the handle and Senamaka show promising insecticide effect on leaf miner liromyces species. Further investigation to assess the effect of this extract on other insect pests of snake cucumber pests. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Finish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately, the poster not show.
Yeah, the thing is that there is a technician who will play all the videos, but I've got a message here that the technician has got all the videos except for yours. For some reason, I'm not sure. So I'm sorry for that.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But also the poster and the. Okay.
I just wanted to
Continue.
ask you about
I sent
your.
them.
Can I ask you about your research?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how did you identify the plants for your research? Did you do some ethnobotanical like survey before?
Yes. I as a plant traditional things in the piece them about and they fall and they use this as a traditional methods. They crushing and putting the sorghum and putting the weeds to save them from the insects attacking. And we did some research with my students for the handle or citrulus, and it give a very good result to control the insects.
Okay.
Also for Sanamaka. Okay.
You can continue. Yes.
We select. Yes, you can continue.
Yeah, sorry,
What
I
did you say?
I didn't want to interrupt you. So also for the other plant, so you did some ethnobotanical pre-survey to identify the plants, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have some scientists. Okay, thank you for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your
Any question for
contribution.
the part? Okay, thank you.
I don't see any question in chat, no in WOBA. So thank you very much. And I would like to invite next presenter, who could be Norman Kwikiriza. Do we have Norman here? Or actually, I don't think that it really matters who will be the next one. I mean, maybe leave it on the technician who will play our next video.
My name is Norman Kwichiriza, presenting the poster on the potential of orange fresh sweet potato for food security and nutrition in the pastoral communities of Karamoja in northern Uganda. Climate change adaptation requires farmers to build resilience through adopting nutritious and adaptable crops. Orange fresh sweet potato, or OFSP, is such crop that was introduced in Karamoja because it is a rich source of vitamin A, it is early maturing, high yielding, and thrives in harsh climatic conditions as such in Karamoja. It was distributed through schools, communities, and with associated technologies such as the Health Baby Toolkits. Mixed methods were used in this study, and we relied on a baseline survey that involved 138 randomly sampled farmers, qualitative data from FGDs, field monitoring, and stakeholder interviews. We find that 90% of farmers were growing sweet potato for the very first time. And when we introduced this orange fresh sweet potato, they were very enthusiastic about it. Unfortunately, some lost vines due to drought. We found that vines could survive up to 1 month in soil without rain, but once it rains, they sprout very quickly. Consumption of leaves encourages vine conservation, and these leaves are a very good source of vitamins and minerals. The Health Baby Toolkits complemented utilization of orange fresh sweet potato, especially in promoting young childhood and maternal nutrition. These results show high adoption of orange fresh sweet potato in fragile environments. The high yields of 6 tons per hectare, above the national average of 4.8 tons per hectare, show the high potential of orange fresh sweet potato in Karamoja, despite the climatic shocks that were observed. Various ways of utilization make orange fresh sweet potato an important food security and nutritious crop. Integrating orange fresh sweet potato in fragile communities is an efficient and cost-effective way of addressing food insecurity and malnutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Norman, for your contribution.
Giving me the floor.
I would have a question. The sweet potato is a novel plant in the region, or the fact that it's orange is new to the region? Is Norman there? Oh, maybe he's not there. It was just a video. Okay, I don't see him among participants. Well, okay, so we can thank him for his video. And in this case, I would like to invite next presenter. As I said before, I believe I can leave it on the technician whose videos video are we gonna get? Okay. Thank you.
Giving me the floor. Good morning, dear auditors. My name is Mukaila Bagri Buraima. I'm a PhD student in crop protection at the University of Abume Calavi in Benin. It is a pleasure for me to share with you the result of my meta-analysis on the topic effectiveness of agroecological practices in controlling bacterial weed caused by Ralstonia solanaceae on solanaceous crop. It is a devastating disease on solanaceous crops such as tomato, potato, eggplant, and pepper, where yield loss can up 100%. Since its discovery, many agroecological methods are developed to manage the pathogen. All of them management all of these management methods show various capability to reduce the incidence of the disease and increase yield. However, which of them are more effective in Ralstonia solanaceae with disease management? To respond to the main question, we use a quantitative analysis of a literature. For this purpose, literature research was done using Prisma approach as described in the figure 1. After applying inclusion and exclusion criteria, 670 pairs of data of bacterial weed incidence and crop yield were collected on 48 papers. Bacterial weight incidence and the yield effect size were calculated as the natural logarithm of the ratio between treatment mean and control mean. Data collective quality was assessment with trim and field funnel analysis. To determine the best agroecological bacterial weight management, subgroup analysis was performed and confidence interval was determined by bootstrapping. Our result confirmed that the pathogen is very well distributed in Asia, Africa, America, Australia, and a little in Europe. However, very little research on the station and field level, represented by the red dot on the map, has been carried out in Africa, as shown in Figure 2. The twin and field funnel plot show that more than 95% of the study represented by dots were found in the funnel for both bacterial weight incidence and the yield response ratio, revealing no publication bias in data. Subgroup analysis in Figure 3 performed shown that grafting is more effective in reducing bacterial weight incidence and in field or station, following by varietal selection and using biological control agents. However, varietal selection, biological control, and grafting improve crop yield by 171%, 141%, and 89% respectively. Also, subgroup analysis by crop shown that the application of a bacterial weight management method significantly reduced the incidence of bacterial weight on eggplant compared to tomato and potato with the highest incidence. From this study, we can return that field studies are realized in field or station in Africa in order to reduce bacterial weight consequences, and grafting, varietal selection, and biological control are the best method in controlling this disease. Those methods must be promoted in areas where disease is identified. Likewise, other methods as keeping environment healthy must also be explored as potential management methods and stopping the expansion of the bacteria.
Yeah, thank you. I see that the presenter is here. So do we have any questions? No. Yes, I'm sorry, we are a little bit behind the time schedule, so we will just jump directly to the next presenter, if it's okay. So I would like to ask next presentation to start.
Dear participants, my name is Nihal Jauga, and together with my co-authors, I welcome you to our poster on diversity of plant parasitic nematodes involved in the development of Fusarium wilt on cotton and control methods development in Benin. Cotton production is the leading export crop in Benin, and its production represents 46% of foreign exchange earnings. But very little attention is often paid to diseases such as fusariosis, caused by the fungus Fusarium oxysporum. Fusarium oxysporum is widely associated to plant parasitic nematodes and can easily spread and survive for decades without completing an infestation cycle, while nematodes can impair the normal development of the root by causing galls, lesion, and necrosis, resulting into root malfunction for normal water and nutrient uptake. Together, the fungus and the nematode can cause a complex disease on cotton plant, leading to up to 70% of loss in the field. How can they biologically interact and how can we manage them in Benin context are the questions that this study is trying to respond. Aiming to determine the knowledge on cotton wilt, nematodes, and methods used to control them, to establish the diversity of plant parasitic nematodes on cotton in Benin, to characterize nematodes associated with cotton and their synergetic effect with Fusarium oxysporum, and then propose integrated control methods for plant parasitic nematodes and their complex disease management. This study used the methodology of interviews that assess to what extent are farmers and extension officers aware of cotton nematodes and Fusarium and how do they manage them. The incidence and severity of cotton field for infestation situation, the leaves, roots, soil sample collection for nematode and fungus, extraction, isolation, multiplication, and identification. And then to greenhouse and field experimentation for management methods development. At the end of this study, a better understanding of complex disease development on cotton, a map of cotton situation infestation, a knowledge of cotton nematodes in Benin, an awareness of Fusarium wilt diseases, a best management of Fusarium wilt, and a huge quality and quantity of yield will be the output of this study. I'm at the end of my presentation. Your question, comment, and input are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Nehal, for your presentation. Do we have any questions or comments to this? Yeah, I would like to ask you: is how important is cotton in this region? Is it somehow an important cash crop, or with the tradition, or it's like more kind of novel crop in this region?
Morning.
Hello.
Yes, to respond to your questions, cotton is a cash crop in Benin, and at least 80% of farmers in Benin are cultivating cotton.
Mm-hmm. So so your research might have rather massive impact if you succeed with this management, like better management recommendations and
Yes.
practices, right?
Yes.
Very well, thank you. So I wish you succeed with this. And now I would like to ask, sorry, next presenter, please.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my poster presentation. My name is Alcido Wander, together with colleagues from Embrapa and local extension service of Goiás State, Brazil. We developed the poster Indicators of Soil Quality, Health and Cultivation Environment in an Agroecological Cropping System. Our poster aimed to identify and to quantify the current state of soil conservation and the visual health status of the crops and the vegetation used in the participating farm. Therefore, we did an additional validation of indicators of soil health and quality. This validation was carried out on small-scale family farms linked to the Association of Agroecological Producers of the municipalities of Anápolis and surroundings in Goiás State, Brazil. The main results that we obtained relate to the quite diversified production on farms that are used to validate indicators involving fruits, vegetables, egg production, and also some derivatives of honey, sugarcane, and dairy production. All of them produced under agroecological principles. Farmers very often use fallow and crop rotation, and the crop choices consider, of course, the regional market opportunities of local farmers markets and also digital selling channels that they have access to. The indicators can provide an important information about the agro ecosystem and the relationships and integration between management practices and the sustainability of the whole farms. Once validated, these indicators will make it possible to verify, quantify, visualize, and also to compare the adopted management practices among farms and to facilitate the choice of the most appropriate ones according to the available resources at each farm. The initial validation of indicators showed the need to include soil cover crops as green manure to manage the farmers' cropping systems. Using the soil improvement and conservation practice were also important, and the need to develop alternatives for the coexistence between the management practice they use and to link them with the demand of their products seems to be relevant. So to conclude, the set of indicators used in the additional validation made it possible to highlight, to evaluate, and to quantify sustainability in most of the farms that were involved in the study, and it was demonstrated that soil conservation is the activity in which farmers focus the most care on, highlighting the importance of management practice to control soil erosion and water use. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Alcido, for your contribution. And do we have any questions from the audience? Because I would like to ask, what in your case, or in this case of your research area, what does it mean agroecological? Is it equal to organic, or is there some different concept?
Thank you, Olga, for the question. Good morning to everybody. Well, in Brazil, agroecological farming means, well, there are some similarities with organic farming, but the most important aspect is to consider the local conditions, use as much as possible local inputs, of course, connected to what can be used in organic systems. The marketing, so the crops or the products chosen to produce, they are mainly focusing on local markets, so short value chains, use as much as possible local imports, so circular economy, so the implementation of all these principles, of course, avoiding the synthetic inputs, so what people call modern inputs, and so no chemicals and so on. And so there is a clear relation with what you consider organic, but it's not exactly the same, because you can have organic production selling it to around the globe. In this case, agroecological farming means produce locally with local inputs for local markets mainly. So it's the main idea, the main difference.
So the
to organic.
specification, so the definition would be very broad, but more or less the farmers would understand, or like, I mean, there is like there are no certain limits or specifications that could be put on a paper, but the system somehow exists within this
Yes, and
locality, as you mentioned.
yes, and more people are focusing on this kind of production, especially at small scale producers. Since the global value chains with the, well, we already had some let's say bad signs from them, and with the pandemics it becomes even more clear than the global value chains. They have a lot of limitations in terms of sustainability and so on. So more and more people are trying to find ways out of this global value chains and looking for more local production, more local consumption, and using mainly soil conserving management practices. We had the tradition that when we try to evaluate a soil quality, we just looked to physical and chemical aspects. Nowadays, we are looking for physical, chemical, and biological aspects. So also we have methods already developed how to evaluate in lab the biological soil quality together with the chemical and also physical attributes.
And one more, hopefully very short question: are there any subsidies from the government for like non-conventional agriculture practices in Brazil?
No, there are no specific subsidies for organic or agroecological production. What we could consider a subsidy would be credit at a lower rate for small scale production. So small farmers pay a lower rate for credit than medium large scale. But this is not linked to a specific management set of management practices. Is more related to the size of the farms. Smaller farms pay lower rates than large scale producers. This is the main difference, and I think it's the only what we could say subsidy that is provided. It's just if we have the how do you call the average the national average interest rate. Nowadays we have this rate is about 12%. So small scale producers pay 4 or 5% per year. And large scale producers, they pay what market price, what all the banks practice. So they pay more interest per year. That's the main, the only way where for small scale receive lower rates, or they pay lower rates, but it's not related to the management system, but more linked to the size of the farms.
Yeah, because I think that this kind of shift towards agricultural farming might be not only supported by the need, actually, by the keeping whatever agro biodiversity, soil fertility, but also it could be supported by like as a political decision by some government.
I fully agree with you, but it's not implemented yet. So this differentiation in terms of incentives, so it's not in place yet. Perhaps it can take place in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will and I have to call next presenter.
Rearing parasitoids for biocontrol experiments. Could laboratory conditions influence sex ratio? This is a question originating in my thesis internship at Kabi, Switzerland, where I had to maintain a colony of parasitoid wasps to use in oviposition experiments. The wasps was being evaluated as a potential biocontrol agent against the fall armyworm. There were 4 cages. Here you can see the number of males and females over time in cage number 2. And as the number of individuals increased, the number of males increased much more than the number of females. Why is this important? Well, simply because if the colony runs out of females, it goes extinct. There are a number of factors that can influence sex ratio in parasitoid wasp colonies, and environmental parameters were suspected. But which ones? My idea was to perform a search in papers involving parasitoid rearing and try to see if certain topics were more frequently talked about. A list of topics was obtained from a book on insect rearing by John C. Schneider. Each topic was assigned a list of expressions to match using wildcards, and then it was a simple word count. And here's the number of hits in each corpus. Abstracts on the left, full text on the right. Roughly the same distribution. So we have the extremes, pressure and humidity, which are very rarely mentioned. And then temperature and diet are mentioned a lot. It's common to include temperature in insect studies because of the impact it has on development. So beyond the goal an experiment might have, these parameters are typically just part of the experiment description for reproducibility, etc. Now, are there any relationships between these topics? If we look at the number of hits, there is only a weak correlation between sex ratio and host quality. It's not surprising, since host quality is the main factor considered by the female wasp when she lays her eggs. If we look at the presence of topics, the highest index of co-occurrence is with temperature and diet. In other words, 3 out of 4 papers mentioning either temperature or diet also mention the other one. This is bound to happen when the 2 topics are so prevalent across the corpus, because the JACAR index does not accommodate the relative importance of each topic. So regression was tried next, and the only effect that was found was a slight positive effect of the mention of sex ratio on that of temperature. So this simply indicates that sex ratio is mentioned in the greater proportion of studies mentioning temperature. We can conclude that relationships tests were inconclusive, so there is no clear tendency of a topic to appear every time sex ratio appears. In summary, temperature and diet are very often mentioned in studies involving parasitoid rearing relative to other important parameters. The prevalence or presence of sex ratio was not associated with any of the other topics. And the analysis was pretty simple, but in retrospect, I think it can lead us to a useful conclusion, which is that causes for sex ratio fluctuations probably don't lie in environmental parameters. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation. And if I may, I have a question. How do you count these animals? Like, you recognize them just by like the appearance, whether they are males or yeah, whether they
By
are
physical
males or
attributes,
females?
you mean?
Pardon?
By physical attributes?
Yeah.
Exactly. So for Calonus insularis, it's a little bit tricky because the only difference is the number of segments in the antennae. So it takes a bit of experience to become proficient at it, but because there's this because the individuals are reared individually to avoid the cannibalism of the host larva, every time you put one individual in the cage, you can sex it, and then you keep count like this.
Oh, I see. So you didn't count really like the individuals in the
No,
in
they
some
move around
cases.
too much.
Yeah. I was thinking that it would be yeah. Okay, so you think that it's kind of weird population dynamics, so it's not influenced by this strange sex ratio.
Yes, there was a follow-up work on that, which looked at endogenic causes like allelic richness. And I think allelic richness is a better explanation for sex ratio fluctuations. I mean, this is outside of the topic of this poster, but basically what happens is that we might have large undetected proportions of the population that are actually diploid males, which are either infertile or have a tendency to produce even more males. And so the observed sex ratio, the sex ratio you get after the cocoon is hatched, is different than that the female has tried to lay. When she laid her eggs, she wanted to lay a female, but because allelic richness is low, you end up with a diploid male hatching. But that's another topic.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
contribution. And I would like to ask for next presentation, which will be probably Hilda.
Dear participants, my name is Eta Hilda Chia. On behalf of my co-authors, I welcome you to our poster presentation on agroecological practices and drivers of adoption by arable crop farmers in Cross River State, Nigeria. Our research was aimed at analyzing agroecological practices among arable crop farmers, as well as identifying drivers of adoption of these practices by farmers. The study also sought to establish the effect of selected socioeconomic characteristics on the adoption of these agroecological practices. A multi-stage sampling technique was used to select 120 farming households from 3 agricultural zones that make up Cross River State. In the first stage, purposive sampling was used to select 3 agricultural blocks based on the volume of arable crops produced in these blocks. In the second stage, simple random sampling was used to select 5 cells from each of the selected agricultural blocks, giving a total of 15 cells. In the third and final stage, the simple random sampling was used to select approximately 10% of registered household heads. A set of structured questionnaires was then used to elicit information from the respondents. It was observed that farmers were employing various agroecological practices for food crop production. Such the key ones that were adopted with high adoption rates were intercropping, 100%, green manuring practices, was adopted by 95.8% of the farmers, and also 95% of the farmers adopted scarecrows or traps, probably for pest control. The most important drivers of adoption of agroecological practices by farmers were ranked as follows: the desire to improve crop yields, the availability of local inputs, as well as the desire to cope with the menace of climate change. Given that the factors that influence the adoption of agroecological practices were primarily production or productivity factors, we therefore recommended that extension advisory services should target programs that boost crop yields through the adoption of agroecological practices. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to receiving your questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I would like to ask a little bit
Hello
similar
everyone, my name
questions before Alcido. The agroecology
is
principles. Would you actually understand under or how did
Okay.
you identify them in your research?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. What we did was in literature, we actually searched from literature some of the agroecological practices that are being carried out all over. And then we had to, ask the farmers to kind of indicate which of them were being used by them. So we we had to break down and explain some of these principles or practices to farmers in order for them to understand and to give us the appropriate answers. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. You know, this conference, its topic is Can agroecological farming feed the world? And I have to say that people discuss a lot here what actually agroecological farming means. And maybe we are reaching this period of our like mankind where we actually don't need strict explanation of this terminology, and it could mean a little bit different thing in different parts of the world. That's what I
Exactly.
feel that people somehow well also feel. That's why I'm asking the question in order to see, because you're from different continent that also with so it would and I think that you had a little bit so different aspects because the locality I haven't
Yeah.
noticed in your case.
Yeah, I think you're very correct. It is being interpreted differently in different contexts. So it's, when you have to, like some of these practices, farmers tend to take them and adapt them to their local realities, thereby tending to give it a different kind of interpretation. So I think this goes to agree with what you have just said. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution, and I would like to invite, I think, our last presenter.
Hello everyone, my name is Ariel and I welcome you to the presentation of our poster entitled Growing Vegetables on Fallow Rice Fields Between Growing Seasons, Challenges and Opportunities in Southeastern Madagascar. The southeastern region of Madagascar is among the most vulnerable regions in terms of food and nutrition security. One opportunity to enhance this situation is the short cycle horticulture on rice fields, but this practice is still relatively uncommon in the region. So in this research, we focused on the identification of key hindering factors and motivating factors that affect farmers' decision to grow vegetables or not in the rice fields. Regarding hindering factors, we have 4 hypotheses: technical barriers, market barriers, gender barriers, and attitudinal barriers. As methodology, we conducted the field research on August 2021, and we divided the interviewees in 2 types: doers, the farmers who grow vegetables on the rice fields, and non-doers, the farmers who grow vegetables but on other plots. And we followed a 3-steps approach. The first step was the interviewees' identification. The second step was the semi-structured interviews among doers and non-doers, and the last one was the data analysis, which consists on the data transcription and coding. As barriers, 3 hypotheses were confirmed, which are the technical barriers, attitudinal barriers, and market barriers. The gender barrier was not confirmed during this research. The main barrier to the implementation of this interseasonal horticulture is the technical barrier. Flooded rice fields and rice fields, which are located far from the village, cannot be used to this practice. There are some attitudinal barriers that contribute to it, like rice fields is only for rice, fertilizers damage the rice fields, and growing vegetables in the rice field is only for non-local people. And the low demand in the market represents also a barrier for an increased vegetable production. Regarding opportunities, farmers are motivated to interseasonal horticulture because of the soil fertility improvement and the income source that they can have after selling the their vegetable production in the market. By this research, we conclude that interseasonal vegetables production on rice fields is an opportunity for only few farmers who have non-flooded rice fields located near the villages and near water source. And we recommend that these farmers should be targeted with trainings to overcome attitudinal barriers. So this is the end of this presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we are waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Ariel, for your presentation. And I would like to ask you something. Do the farmers there have somehow the opportunity to regulate the water level on their rice fields? Do they have like a system of irrigation so that they can drain the field and flood the field when more or less, like not whenever they want, but somehow like flexibly?
Thank you for your question. In general, they don't have this water management. They are waiting for the rain for growing rice in every season. So yeah, they don't have this power for now. Yeah.
Because maybe this is, if they had such a system, it would be good for both the rice, because you don't have to, you can use some like water saving techniques for rice cultivation, like alternate wetting, drying, and it would maybe help even the vegetable cultivation. And I would have one more question. This attitudes that growing a vegetable in the rice field is for non-local. It means that the vegetable would be could be only sold to non-locals, or non-locals would do it, like produce the vegetables.
It is among the attitudinal barriers. And so local farmers think that these vegetables growing in the rice field is only for non-local people, because this practice, the interseasonal horticulture, is practiced mostly in the highlands in Madagascar. So if those people move to this region, they continue to do it in the rice field. So the local farmers think that it is only for them. They are not interested in it.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't like. Yeah, I would like to get to quick conclusions. But does it mean that the farmers are very conservative there?
Yeah, we can say that, because some of them don't like the fertilizers, especially the chemical fertilizers. They are used to the traditional ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your contribution. Okay, so we should have finished a few minutes ago. So I'm sorry that the session was a little bit longer. So thank you very much to you all for your participation. And I very much hope that we would meet in person at some next Tropentag conference whenever in Europe, whenever in whichever country. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for your bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I think because there is the session agroecological aspects 2, and I believe that we can directly continue here. Am I right? Yes. So the first presenter is Victorine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victorine Jago from University of Agroecological in Benin, and I would like to present some results of my research work on evaluation of the transition potential of farm toward agroecology in 2 African regions. In tropical area, we can observe conventional and unsustainable systems which provide medium to very low yield. For many scientists, a transition from current system to sustainable systems such as agroecology should be thought to achieve high productivity and respond effectively to the needs of the population and preserve soil fertility. However, despite the intrinsic agro-environmental performance of these practices, their amplification at the scale of territories and for a real transition from family farming to agroecology remain the main challenge. So what are these barriers and the potential of current farms toward more ecological practices? And what are the similarities and differences in the levels of action to unlock the agroecological transition into regions with similar pedoclimatic conditions? This study is being conducted in Atakura in Benin and the province of Ué in Burkina Faso. The two regions of the different countries have similar pedoclimatic conditions. What is the problem? Can you see my idea?
We can see the first slide.
Ah, okay. And now you can see the third slide?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, to achieve the goal, we first carry out a typology of the farm based on the knowledge of the actor of the village in order to consider the diversity of the farms of each village. In a second step, we conducted a survey of the characterization of the farms and the level of evolution in the process of agroecological transition. Quantitative variables such as intensity of use of fertilizers, pesticides, and agroecological practices were used. So to consider all the social diversity and production systems, we used stratified random sampling. 650 farms were investigated and tablet and platform co-coordinate tools were used. Finally, on the basis of the principle of agroecology defined in the literature, we suggested a grid for assessing the agroecological environmental performance of farms. This grid proposed the following performance criteria such as input independence, use of biological input, environmental conservation, and as a result, these performance criteria were declined into indicators to be evaluated and scores were assigned. These scores will allow us to make radar diagram to situate the level of each type of farm in relation to agroecology. Now we will present some results. Typology based on local knowledge of actor based on production tips and social diversity has shown 7 types of farm, namely farm owned by Fulani herders, market garden seed, individual vegetable farm, and rent cropping farm. These type of farm were then characterized in terms of the area exploited, the intensity of use of mineral and organic fertilizers and pesticides, the intensity of livestock, and the intensity of implementation of agroecological practices. Agroecological practices implemented by these farmers are the use of organic fertilizers and biopesticides, crop rotation, crop association, agroforestry, life hedges, and other. A greater diversity of agroecological practice is observed on farm in Burkina Faso compared to farm in Benin. The frequency of use and doses of fertilizer uses in Burkina Faso are higher than in Benin. In addition, farms in Burkina Faso are at higher level of agroecological transition than those in Benin. However, in both regions, farms belonging to the Fulani adopt practices close to sustainable agriculture. The Fulani constitutes a category of farmers who own the largest numbers of livestock and apply a large amount of organic manure on their farm. What conclusion have we reached? In neither region exclusively, organic or agroecological farms are currently found. Moreover, these farms present common assets but also specific challenges to be met in terms of the use of synthetic pesticide and resin fertilization, the use of crop residue, and the integration of agriculture and livestock for an agroecological transition. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And obviously, we reach a very similar point. Again, the understanding what agroecological means might have different structure, different features than what we heard before, but there are definitely many cross linkages, like this locality, less use of conventional fertilizers and phytosanitary products, right? Victorine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or how would you, or would you say that there is another aspect in your research area, or in your research, how would you define the agriculture?
Yes, I think that I can define agroecology in my region, and to promote agroecology in the region, we can encourage farmers to use the local research who. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's go on. You can continue if you want. No, okay. So maybe we just thank you very much for your contribution, and I think that we do we have any question in MOVA? No. Okay, so I would like to ask next presenter for their presentation. Thank you, Victorine.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I can share my screen to start the presentation.
So now I'm a little bit, yeah, now it's something is, okay, perfect. I see the screen. Yeah, we see your screen, so you can start your presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the chance to present my poster on machinery ownership model for effective smallholder mechanized rice production in Ghana. Rice is one of the major crops that's mostly used by Ghanaians, and it's used for lots of dishes, as you can see. And there has been lots of programs to improve rice production, and lots of conservation agricultural practices being input to ensure the sustainability of the increased production. However, if we are not able to integrate mechanization with these methods, the gains being made in production will not be sustainable. Hence, this project was conceived around that. So the project actually collected data from both the northern and the southern sector of Ghana where rice production occurs, and then the data was analyzed. So I looked at the current machinery used within production, and in terms of field preparation and then threshing of crops, that's where you have a major mechanical power use. But then the rest of the activities such as planting, the husbandry operation, and then bird scaring activities are done using human labor. The harvesting has a bit of mix in there of machinery use and then human labor for harvesting. Then it's also interesting to note that the farm sizes in the northern sector are larger than the farm sizes in the southern sector as well. So this study proposed these models, a model of machinery ownership, and these are the machinery that are proposed. We have the power tiller, the drum seeder, and then a mini combine harvester as a full set of equipment for production. So the idea is that there is a model where the farmer will own the machinery himself. And then there is a model where the farmer hires the machine. And then there is a model where the farmer will own the machine, but then hire it out to colleague farmers to make some income. And then there's a model where the farmer, they come together as a group, and then they purchase the machine and use it in a group. Then there is another one where the farmer owns the machine. He hires it out to his fellow farmers, but then produces twice in a year. Now, the cost benefit and all this is being done under broadcasting and then transplanting methods of production. So the cost benefit analysis that was done showed very impressive performance for the farmer cooperative ownership model. So that was the model that was proposed by this study. However, the part where the farmer owns the machine and then hires it out and produce twice a year also showed good benefit ratios compared to where the farmer hires the machine. And the ownership model didn't, where the farmer owns the machine, those models didn't produce any good cost benefit ratios. The study concluded that for these models to work, there are a lot of things that were kept constant in this the evaluation of the model. However, we have to ensure that the farmers are trained properly so that they can use the machine. And then there should be vibrant professionals and technical services, as well as availability of spare parts for them to effectively use these machines in the way that the model projects that they would. And also this model will result in increased demand for machinery. So there should be local production, the local production of machinery also should be bumped up to take care of this. And there should be further studies on what the choices that affect the farmer, when the farmer makes when they want to select machinery. And that's one of the projects I'm working on currently to understand that. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I wanted to ask you, so the cooperative model seemed to be one of the most promising, right? And do you have in your country proper legislation for this so that you know, the cooperative can be created and somehow maintained and to the benefits of each member?
Okay, yes, thank you for the question. There are existing farmer cooperatives that are within these rice production centers, and they come together and do a lot of projects together. And there are NGOs that are actually training some of these cooperatives in business ownership and all. So with that aspect, there exists the cooperative setup, which can be used, which can then adopt these methods going forward. But then there should be studies to look at the social aspects of dealings within those cooperatives and how this model can thrive within that as well. That's what I will propose, yes.
Mm-hmm. Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Let me check the question. No. Okay, very well. Then I would like to ask next presenter to present their contribution.
Yes, just give me a second. To share my screen. Olga, I'm not able to share my screen.
You are not. Can we ask because I think that this is also managed by the technician. You should be able to do it. Like there's like this green button, share screen, at least on my screen.
Yeah, now it can. Great.
Perfect.
So Great, thank you so much. I would like to present in person because I'm not really into the idea of video recorded presentations. So I'll talk about factors affecting farmers' decisions for delayed planting of rice and wheat in Bihar, India. And this is a work in progress with several components, and I'll be talking about just one of the components here. So why we are studying this is because Bihar is an eastern state in India, which is marked with delayed planting of paddy, which is the monsoon crop, which ultimately delays its harvesting and has a bearing on the next winter crop, wheat as well, whose sowing is delayed. This exposes wheat to terminal stress, heat stress in its crucial cropping stage, which reduces its yield. And the late harvesting of paddy also has a bearing on total paddy harvest. So this totally brings crop productivity of rice and wheat cropping systems down in the state. And why this is a concern? Because 7 million farmers in the state itself alone depend on just these two crops for their consumption needs, and nearly 80% of the land in the state is devoted to these two crops. So there is a need to study why this delay is happening, and we need to rectify this. And against this backdrop, we are trying to look at factors that cause delays in rice wheat operations in Bihar, and we propose certain strategies which can help in timely wheat sowing, and how farmers rank these various strategies. And to give an interesting end to the study, we also survey some agriculture experts in the field, such as various government scientists, private and government research staff, policymakers, to understand how they rank these various strategies for timely wheat sowing. So we conduct a primary survey of about 2,000 farmers growing rice and wheat in the region, and both the surveys have a best first scaling experiment that we perform for this analysis. And I'll be really brief about the experiment and come to the idea. So this basically is a method to obtain ranking of items, where instead of ranking all items together, you rank subsets of items repeatedly to obtain the full ranking. And in our experiment, we are trying to obtain ranking of 6 strategies which can be helpful for timely wheat sowing. Some are conventional, like cheaper irrigation and availability of tractor, labor, or weather forecast information, but others are new, such as sowing wheat by zero tillage, which essentially means no tilling of land before wheat sowing, and a specialized machine puts in seeds and fertilizers into the soil together. And access to short duration paddy seeds, which basically mature faster than the conventionally available seed varieties. And this is basically a discrete choice experiment like setup, where the objective is to select the most important and the least important strategy for timely wheat sowing. I'll come straight to results now. What we saw in our sample was that 43% farmers were planting paddy, and about 80% were, sowing wheat beyond the recommended dates by the experts. And a weekly comparison showed that while what the farmers perceived as ideal dates was not so different from expert recommendations, it was the actual dates that were delayed by about 2 weeks. And we assumed that the utility function for every person was additive and estimated random parameter logit models with varying specifications. So this basically gives the utility share of each strategy. And what we see is that there are stark differences in how experts and farmers rank these strategies. While experts go for newer methods like zero tillage and short irrigation seeds, farmers go for conventional methods like irrigation and tractor availability. And what this basically means is that the differences in assessment means that, one, there's a possibility of lack of knowledge and we need better extension programs. But it also means that lack of knowledge may not be the only factor, because we saw that their assessment were not so different from the expert recommendations. The actual dates were affected, which is happening because of several things, several issues they face on ground, such as the interdependent nature of farming in Bihar. Like, farmers cannot grow these newer seed varieties because if others are growing longer duration varieties in the adjacent plots, because for several reasons, like they don't have labor on time, and there could be flooding because of nearby plots. And this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to look at how these issues on ground impact farmers' various rankings, which zones are affected because of this delay, and why. We also would look at how to control for observed heterogeneity, because so far our models don't include for that. And of course, I forgot to mention the last thing, which is that the expert survey that we're doing is basically a snowball sampling, in which we are trying to chase some of these experts to answer the surveys for us, and we are trying to obtain more data to refine our results. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm still somehow circulating around the agroecology. So is there some kind of agroecological concept in your research? Like, do you ask them for strategies that would fit to the agroecology concept? Or
So thanks for asking that. So the original idea, basically, the reason why this whole issue of delayed, operations matters is basically stemming from that point itself. Like, the eastern Indo-Gangetic plain of India, which is where Bihar is placed. If I come back to this slide, is marked with rainfall dependent cultivation of rice and wheat, and as we know, because of climate change, what happened is that the prediction of rainfall has become difficult, and rainfall has become really erratic, which forces farmers to like they don't have really a proper information mechanism by which they can decide when to sow rice and wheat. So that is how we are trying to formulate whether how farmers and experts, they rank proper information availability as one of the important strategies or not, because ultimately delayed operations force farmers to take actions such as because of a lack or delay reduced wheat yields. Farmers, for instance, apply excess fertilizers. They're forced to do that, or if they're looking for you know um, irrigation possibilities, if they are not to go for rainfall, then it ultimately has a bearing on groundwater table. And as we know that in several parts of India, the groundwater depletion is rampant. So this basically, this whole idea, the motivation behind this whole study is essentially how we can bridge the gap between what the farmers are supposed to do and what they're doing by providing information and these better strategies. Yeah, hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation and for your for your presentation and your answer. And now I would like to invite a next presenter in our session.
Hello everyone, welcome to my poster presentation. My name is Hamza Molunjoya. I am a PhD candidate at Leibniz Center for Agricultural Landscape Research. The title of my presentation is Agroecology has Solution to Land Degradation, Vulnerability and Resilience in Far North Region of Cameroon. Let us move to the introduction. About 80% of the working population is employed in agriculture. Similarly, more than 80% of land is degraded in the Far North region of Cameroon. The main cause of land degradation in North Cameroon is the intensive land use, uncontrolled and inappropriate use of chemical fertilizer. Moreover, soil fertility is low and declining, and farmers do not have access to manure. Unsustainable natural resource management is a major problem, which is hindering agricultural growth, food security, and poverty reduction. Because of the impact of agriculture on natural resource, agroecological practices are important for sustainable natural resource management in the context of sustainable development. Therefore, poor resource farmers in the semi-arid area of North Cameroon have implemented several practices and techniques to cope with land degradation in order to restore farmland. In this study, we identify and highlight the agroecological techniques that have been implemented by farmers to foster land restoration. The investigation took place in the far north region of Cameroon, specifically in Tokomberi Council. The type of climate is Sudano-Sahelian, characterized by a long dry season, about 8 months, and a short rainy season, about 4 months. Household survey was used to collect data, and the sample size was 160 households. Focus group discussion, the field observation were used to complete data. Content analysis was performed. That the agroecological techniques implemented by farmers are different according to the geographical location of farmers. So in terrace, heads, and stone bunch or anti-erosion builds are the technique used in the mountain. On the other hand, half moon cultivation and ridge, on ridge and beds desired are the technique implemented in the plain. Other agroecological techniques have been also identified, that is crop association, agroforestry, the use of human urine, and the use of the livestock waste. Now, the conclusion. We can say combating soil degradation is a significant contribution to food security. Human urine contains the same nutrient that plants require for growth as chemical fertilizer and manure. The local and ridge are the most effective techniques on the plain. Soil in the mountain are less degraded and more fertile than those located in the plain. The restoration techniques applied in the mountain are more likely to enhance resilience than those applied in the plain. The study recommends the development of technical, political governance, and financing framework that support agricultural farmers and resource managers engaged in a dynamic process of innovation. For your kind attention, I am looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Actually, I don't have like specific question to this presentation. Maybe I just want to ask like generally, do you think that introducing new plants also belongs to one of agroecological strategies? Would you consider it as agroecological, introducing new crops? Do we have actually Hamza here?
Thank you for your question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. The question was, what is the question, please?
My question is whether what is like not maybe just for you, it's for everybody, whether introducing new crops could be considered as agroecological practice.
Yes, I think introducing the new crops would be considered like agroforestry practices, like Cajunus cajans is grow to the main purpose of Cajunus cajans is to restore land, is for fertility purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this plant is very it's got enormous potential. That's right.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have another questions? Well, no. Very well. Then I think I will. Okay, please. It's Lillian, right?
Yes, thank you. And to answer also to your question, maybe I think in the context in Cambodia, it's like a trade-off between the risk of introducing invasive species and the risk, and then having a very degraded soil, and then it can be also even beneficial. Species, but I think it's very we need to consider very well and evaluate the ecological context, I think. Also in terms of resilience to climate change, because often new introduced crops are maybe not as resilient as the local varieties. So that's on the observation.
Yeah, you're right, and it's not only the crop that's being introduced; it's also the this like extended phenotype the crop has got, like the parasites that would maybe arrive with it and potentially attack in other crops, like local crops. But at the same time, I think that climate change is already stems from the word. It's like change, so it requires also reaction, and it means that we probably have to change our practices in order to accommodate to the climate change. But as you say, this is like the thing is that introducing new crops can be a strategy, but it has to be really well considered.
But what we did for rice in Cambodia was there in the area I work we have around 100 different rice varieties just regionally, and so we invited the farmers to evaluate their own rice varieties for resilience factors, and then they could actually like just from field observation double some of the harvest because of having chosen more resilient traditional varieties, and like just using local available genetic resources, but evaluating them in new terms, more aware of climate change. Yeah, and but I have one question to the presenter too about the half-moon technique. Do you think it's has the potential like to or can you describe it a little bit more, how it works?
It was Hamza, right? Hamza, are you still here? Oh, sorry, or I'm not.
Yes, please,
Yeah,
Lilian, what was the question, Lilian?
the half moon technique. This, because Zai is quite known, but this
Yeah.
half moon technique is something that we would like to hear about.
Yes, yes. It's kind of infrastructure made by farmers to content to facilitate the infiltration of raining water. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you do it on a flat land or on a slope.
Mostly in the plain. That was the technique, one of the technique implemented by farmers on the plain. So because on the plain soil are degraded, so it's kind of technique to restore land, farmland. So the main purpose is to retain, to increase the capacity of retention of water.
So it would somehow it's like for the underground water, or it's similar as Zai, that it should somehow kind of accumulate the water from the dew, or
So
how?
it's kind of container. So it's collect data, it's collect the water and it facilitates the infiltration. So yeah.
Do you think it can combat flooding?
Pardon?
Yes,
I think
it's a good method.
I think can help me maybe like in Ethiopia also we have such kind of experience when the farmers are like constructing a small half moon around the plant around the tree to conserve the moisture.
Yes.
Sorry, Lileni, did you want to ask on some specific question
I
about
mean,
it?
I mean the main characteristic of this part of Cameroon is this part of Cameroon characterized by a short rainy season. So farmers do not have a maybe because the rain is rain about 4 months, not more than 4 months. So that means they are growing crop only for one season. So they are kind of trying to implement this kind of infrastructure to facilitate water retention. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I think you would have to continue in Boba or someplace else, because we have like 2 minutes to the end of the session, and
Super
still
interesting.
four people.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for that. It's like it's very interesting, but I have to interrupt you and invite next presenter. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
But I believe you can find your contact details on your contributions and somehow get into touch. So please, the next presenter.
Yeah, for sure.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy today to present you my poster with the title Crop Productivity Improvement in Organic Agriculture Through a System-Based Approach. In the year 2007, the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture and its local partner ECP started 2 long-term experiments in the Central Highlands of Kenya to compare organic and conventional farming systems in the tropics. The trials are located in Chuka and Tika, which differentiate in their soil fertility and weather conditions. We compared the organic and conventional system at 2 input levels, the high and the low input level. The difference between the input level were the amount of nutrients supplied and the supplementary irrigation. In addition, we used a maize-based crop rotation with maize crops, vegetables, legumes and potatoes to compare the organic and conventional systems. The management practice of the trials was kept the same during the first 4 crop rotations, meaning from 2007 to 2018. However, because of the poor performance of some of the crops in organic system, we decided to adopt a system approach. in the high input system. Meaning, for example, that we use the push-pull approach or that we adapted the nutrient timing and quality, especially in the organic systems. In this figure, I want to present to you some of the yield differences in percentage of organic compared to conventional farming system at our trial site at Tika, before and after we implementing a system approach. In maize crop, we found that we can yield similar in organic and conventional system, as you can see here, for example, in baby corn. However, when we look to other crops like cabbage, potatoes or French beans, we could see that especially in the first 4 crop rotations, we yielded quite low and we had a difference between the organic system and the conventional system. After implementing a systemic approach in organic system, like for example here in French beans, when we mixed it in this case, for example, with coriander, we could achieve higher yields in organic and even exceeding the yields of conventional. Our conclusions and recommendations are as follows. We could see that organic system can already perform better with regards to environmental and human health. However, organic farming system need to adopt a system approach to close the yield gaps to conventional and reach their full potential. We recommend to invest in capacity building for farmers and extensionists, and especially also to intensify the research and innovations for organic and agroecological systems. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, David, for your contribution. And I wanted to ask you, do you think because you had different like crop rotation systems, right? There were like different crops.
Not between organic and conventional, but between the input systems. So on the low and the high input, we had different kinds of crops.
So do you think, I'm asking whether you think that there would be an option to somehow really like balance the crop rotation system so that it would eventually give not lower yields than the conventional systems in the organic?
You mean like adapting also in the organic, like to crops which are maybe more suitable?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, yes, that would be possible. Actually, it's quite a discussion which we had in the last year, and there's always these discussions: how much can be adapted to the system? How much do we have to keep the comparability? So in a sense, of course, in the end, we also want to compare if the yields are the same. So we kept it the same, but we also have long-term trials in India where they did it, where they also tried, and there they found out, yeah, you can, if you go, for example, they exchange wheat to chickpeas, and there they found out you can get much better profitability results. In the end, you cannot compare the productivity, but they said it's much better for organic farmer to switch to chickpea. But we are not at this point in Kenya because we still wanted to keep that similar.
Yeah, because maybe organic production is not for everything. Maybe some crops early we will have to keep some crops conventionally grown, and whenever possible use like edit cultivate the other crops organically if possible. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. And I would like to then ask next presenter to share their research.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Kamseme, the PhD student of Agroecology and Food Systems from Uganda Matters University. Here to present to you result findings from the literature review on the fascinating insect pests in Mouse domestica apple fruit orchards. Apples are temperate fruit trees grown worldwide and are introduced in Ugandan highlands where they are doing very well. It is now over 20 years since they were introduced in Uganda. However, we are found susceptible to insect pests yet to be identified. Thus, a dilemma in their proper management. Therefore, this study reviewed available literature on insect pest diversity, distribution, in apples and their long-term management strategies. So, intensive literature search was done on ISI Web of Science bibliographic database using search terms of apple entomofauna and insect pest. But also, science database was searched using keywords of apples, insects, and pests. And further references and information was obtained from experts as well as from citations within references and grey literature. So through the study, at least 125 papers were reviewed, which revealed that insect pests are a complex pattern of ecological homologies that describe pest insects and their preferred hosts. Hassan and Moron, 2014. These pests included closely related species and unrelated taxa, but of similar feeding habits. Bears et al. 2009. But also, these insects were found to spread very differently, and their spread is enhanced through global trade by climate change and other related conditions. Though some of these pests are generalists, others are specialists and are transitory in nature, where majority were aphids, weevils, scales, to mention but a few. Worse still, some insect pests have developed resistance to several chemical insecticides, making their management difficult. Bergman et al. 2016. So it is found out that two basic approaches, that is to say, eradication and IPM, could minimize on their impact on apples. So we conclude and say, active research in the yet unexploited domain have the potential to support insect pest management in apples in the face of climate and land use changes. So we recommend and say an immediate understanding on insect pests present in Ugandan apples be studied and identify possible pest management strategies for improved apple productivity in Uganda. I thank you for listening and I look forward to questions, comments arising from this presentation.
Thank you, Emily, for your presentation. So you mentioned the eradication and IPM as strategies, but have some of those papers mentioned like physical creation of physical barrier between the tree and the pest using some kind of net, not really like net houses, but some nets that wouldn't allow the insect to land on the tree. Oh, actually, I haven't checked whether we have Emily here. Oh, I don't. Okay, sorry, Emily is not here. Okay, so I'll have to find my own on my own. Very well. So in this case, I would like to invite the last presenters of our session, please. Okay, so we don't have any videos left. Very well. In this case, do we have Sanon here? Okay, yes. So please, yeah, the floor is yours.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good morning, dear Chair. My name is Vincent Paul. I would like to present our research on agroecology in Burkina Faso. This study was performed in 7 regions of Burkina Faso, which is a sub-Saharan country, where a large proportion of the population rely on agriculture. However, harsh conditions such as soil degradation, climate change, lead farmers to adopt new practices to improve their production. For our methodology, we used a quantitative approach, so we addressed the questionnaire to more than 65 persons, and then we had also a qualitative interview with some resources person. And for our result, we had established a list of more than 325 actors involved in agroecology. And these actors are involved in different activities to promote agroecology, such as extension, training, and also commercialization. And you can also see from this graph that these actors are also adopting about 68 agroecological techniques that are very important for them, and which can like the main one are composting. You can see also water and soil conservation practices and the use of biopesticides.
I'm sorry, do you think you can make it full screen, because it's very hard for us to read it? You know, we see your slides, but if you just make it full screen, it will be much easier for us. It's still not, yeah, now, perfect, thank you.
So here are also some pictures about the dominant practices adopted by the actors, like composting, and you can also see half moon. This picture is some leaves used for biopesticide. The actors are also involved in different networks to support their action and to improve their production. You can see also research and technical support network and some umbrella association. Agroecology is perceived like an alternative to the detrimental effect of conventional agriculture and all the constraints that the actors face during the activities. And they are considering as main constraint financial difficulties, and also difficulty to access land. And here, you know that the security is also a big issue. So we think that now agroecology can contribute to improve production and also food security in Burkina Faso, but we need improvement of funding, also training, and an elaboration of very relevant and consistent guideline to support the actors' activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Do we have any questions?
Welcome.
Not specifically. Okay, so I'm sorry, very sorry that this session was much longer than expected, but we had some discussion, and so thank you very much for your participation. And I very much hope that next Tropentag we will be able to meet in person in Berlin next year, or in any other Tropentag or any other conference. So thank you very much for your contributions, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.